Trevor Lawrence is the top waiver wire pickup of Week 15. We'll tell you why next.
You are Locked On Dynasty Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all year long. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. He is the Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, Michael Fabiano. And on today's show, we're going to talk about the top waiver wire pickups going into Week 15. We're into the fantasy football playoffs now, and this is the most important time of the season. So, Fabs, I want to start at quarterback because there are some injuries. Maybe you lost Daniel Jones for the season. Maybe you have Jaylen Hurts, who's really struggling right now. Which quarterbacks are you picking up on the waiver wire?
Well, I mean, Trevor Lawrence has got to be at the top of the list. And, he's out there. I mean, you look at the ownership percentage over on Sleeper and redrafts, and it's right around 50%. And he's been good lately. I mean, he scored at least 17 points in 3 straight games. He had 19.4 against the Colts. He's got the Jets this week. Obviously no Sauce Gardner, no Quinnen Williams. So Lawrence is a guy that if you need help at quarterback and you're at this point going to the waiver wire, again, I mean, like you said, maybe you have Daniel Jones or
Tyrod Taylor got banged up. Like I was starting Tyrod in some of my super flex leagues.
Yeah,
it's a tough quarterback week.
It is, but he's the #1 target, and I think Marcus Mariota is right there too.
Yeah,
I mean, people, Marcus Mariota, he has not been bad this year, guys. He has not been bad as a starter for the Commanders. He has scored 18 plus points 3 times, and he's had no fewer than 15.4 points in his last 3 starts. So like the floor is not bad. He's got the Giants this week too. And the Giants are not a good team. And by the way, that whole Abdul Carter thing, I don't know what the heck is going on with that, but wow. But yeah, I would start Mariota this week because I don't know why the Commanders would ever even think about playing Jayden Daniels again, this season. So Mariota's a guy, especially based on that matchup, that you could go out and get. There are some others.
Real quick, can I go back to Lawrence real quick? Because I do think these two are the top ones to go out there and get.
Right.
You have for Marcus Mariota, you have the Giants this week. Trevor Lawrence has the Jets here in Week 15. And then the Jaguars play at Denver, at Indianapolis, home Tennessee. Most leagues don't play Week 18, which you shouldn't. The Commanders play the Eagles in Week 16, and Philadelphia's defense has been unbelievable the last couple of weeks. So do you play Mariota in that matchup? Would you rather play Lawrence against Denver?
You may have to. No. I definitely wouldn't. I think you have to kind of piecemeal it together.
Okay.
And looking at those matchups and seeing who's out there. I mean, like Sam Darnold's out there too. And Sam Darnold's got the Colts this week. And I know, you talk about the Colts. That team is reeling. Folks, they are bringing in Phillip Rivers, who's 44 years old. Like
44.
Riley Leonard has got an injury. And I believe it was Adam Schefter who reported that he's week to week. So the Colts don't have a quarterback. So, I mean, dude, I can't see a scenario where Phillip Rivers is start. You know what I would love to see? Let Tyler Warren play quarterback this week. That would be awesome.
What's funny? It was when I got the tweet, I think it was from Ian Rappaport that they were bringing him in. I'm like, okay, that makes some sense. I want to know what quarterback like that we would get to, or it'd be like, that seems like a little too far. Like Matt Ryan, is Matt Ryan too old? I think Phillip Rivers is quite a bit older than Matt Ryan. Like
they both played for the Colts. I mean,
like if they called Ben or Eli, would you be like,
oh my gosh? Yeah, at what point? That's just bananas, though. It's going to be fascinating to see what happens there because, like, not for nothing, every member of the Colts offense, and I'm including Jonathan Taylor in that, have taken a hit because of that quarterback situation and the injuries that they have had. One other player, and I don't understand why he's still available. I feel like at this point, people are just doing this just to spite me. But Jacoby Brissett is still available in 50% of leagues on Sleeper. Now, he's got Houston this week, and I hate that matchup. And I'd avoid Brissett if I could because the Texans are just I mean, Houston is where fantasy points typically go to die.
Yeah.
But Jacoby Brissett has been nails for 7 straight games as the Cardinals starter. I got JJ McCarthy on this list because he's playing the Cowboys and the Cowboys stink. Do I believe in JJ McCarthy? No, but knock yourself out if you want to give that a shot. And I wouldn't chase the points with Shedeur Sanders either. That was like a weird outlier kind of game. The Titans are not that great, obviously. And he's got Chicago this week. The Bears playing at Soldier Field, and they're coming off a loss. So I don't know that I love Shedeur Sanders. And Bryce Young is out there too, but the matchup's not good this week. The Saints defense has been the toughest defense against quarterbacks in like the last month.
Yeah.
So there are options out there, but I mean, Lawrence and Mariota. Excuse me, by the way, because I'm a little bit flustered this morning, and you're going to find out.
Why is that, Fabs? What's up? Just you seem like you're upset.
I am so pissed this morning. So I'm in a lot of fantasy leagues. You guys know that, right? And I also can't, unless it's like the Cowboys, I can't stay awake for these night games anymore. Like I'm up at 6. My dog's got me feeding them at 6:30 and taking them out for a walk. I'm tired. And I didn't stay awake for that game last night. So I wake up this morning, and I'll give you a little bit of a background on it. I've got 3 matchups that all have playoff implications. One of them, I've got Jalen Hurts. My opponent's got A.J. Brown. Guess how that ended up doing? Jalen Hurts stinks. With all those turnovers, he scored -3 points on one play. I don't think that's ever happened in the history of the NFL or fantasy football. That pick that he threw at the end of the game cost me. I lost by less than a point based on points. I'm out. And if that weren't bad enough, 2 other leagues. I've got like a 15-point league. I got like a 17-point lead. And guess who I'm playing in both of those freaking leagues? It wasn't Saquon. It wasn't Justin Herbert. It wasn't A.J. Brown. It was Cameron Dicker. Cameron Dicker scores like 20 points, and I got beat. So I'm a little soured this morning. So I apologize for that. I still want to give you the best waiver wire information possible. And of course, Marcus and I will, but I am salty today. And I'm sorry if it's coming through, because I have a love-hate relationship with fantasy football right now. And right now I am on the hate side of that relationship. It just grinds my friggin' gears. All right. Sorry.
That's right. I'm feeling jovial because Dallas Goedert caught a pass at the end of the game. Won my matchup. It was great. I was very excited. Great night of football.
Pin a rose on you, pal. I'm happy for you because, geez Louise, man. Kicker. I defend kickers.
That's what I said. This is your time to get rid of kicker, right? This is the moment.
No, I defend.
They're so
kickers.
Random.
People who love kickers who had Dicker last night are probably dancing around the streets right now because they made the playoffs, and who had Aubrey earlier in the week and he went bananas. I can't. Jalen Hurts. Yeah. How do you literally that's the only way he could have lost? The guy turns the ball over 475 times in that game. And okay, you get it. What was it? 5?
5
well,
times.
I mean, there, you lose 10 points. And I still had a chance to win. And then he throws that interception. I know it wasn't all on him at the end of the overtime there. This is why I hate fantasy football sometimes, man. And it's always this time of year that I hate fantasy football. And it's always this time of the year where I start coming up with ideas for how the regular season could mean more going into the playoffs. Different story, though.
All right. Well, we're going to have a conversation about Jalen Hurts later in the week, so be on the lookout for that. Real quick, I want to go back to your other favorite guy, JJ McCarthy, just as a streamer, because you did mention him. They play the Cowboys in Dallas this week, and then next week they play the Giants. I just think this is a chance for him after some really rough starts to put together 2 games. I would not be surprised if McCarthy becomes like a top 12 fantasy quarterback over the next 2 games, and he helps you get to your fantasy football championship matchup. Keep an eye on McCarthy.
You're drinking the Kool-Aid again, dude. You're drinking the Kool-Aid again because he had one good game that didn't help Justin Jefferson.
I know.
Madison.
It's all right.
Against the Commanders.
It's okay.
All right. Okay.
All right, let's talk about the top running back and wide receiver pickups going into week 15. We'll get to that next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, like when a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. There were like 8 of them last night, so it was flipping back and forth all game long. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly, player props that update as guys heat up, and you can bet on just about everything from next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every single snap. So if you want to stay right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all year long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'd also like to thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you are a true diehard fantasy football fan, the Everydayer All Access tier is built for you. You'll get one-on-one text access with Fabs and I, all access episodes, exclusive newsletter, and a 15% discount on Locked On merch. Head over to lockedondynasty.supercast to join the Everydayer Club and unlock all access, and you can find the link in the show notes. All right, Fabs, let's talk about the top pickups at running back and wide receiver going into week 15. Who do you got?
So I'll start off with the player who's the least available, but still 50% available, and that's Blake Corum. At this time of the year, good backup running backs should not be on the waiver wire. No. They just shouldn't. I mean, Kyron Williams is a very valuable fantasy asset. And, if you don't have Blake Corum backing him up, I mean, you got to make sure that you're getting on top of that. And Corum had a really good game last week. He had over 26 fantasy points. Now, probably going to be the best game he's had all year, unless, Kyron gets hurt. But still, you need to have these handcuffs. They're very important. They're very valuable. So Corum needs to be owned across the board right now. Devin Singletary is a player that, remember, before the bye week, the Giants played a game where Tyrone Tracy got hurt. Now, I don't know that it's significant. He's got a hip injury, but you got to keep tabs on his status throughout the week in terms of practice. And Singletary in that game thought a 34% touch share, and he's got a good matchup this week as well against the Commanders. So, if Tracy's banged up or limited or maybe even out, which I don't see that happening right now, but you never know, Singletary all of a sudden has some flex starter value in the first week of the fantasy playoffs. Marcus, that running back is really thin. So I'll throw out some other names. And one of those names is Jaylen Wright. And see, I do think you need to pick him up, especially if you have De'Von Achane. But 2 things. First, the reports suggested that if Miami was actually not way ahead last week, Achane would have been able to come back. He injured his ribs. And there's reports that maybe he's not going to practice this week to rest up for a game on Monday night. And especially because that game is on Monday night, you got to make sure you have a backup for Achane. And last week, it looked like it was Jaylen Wright. And he had a really good game. He scored nearly 17 fantasy points at 107 yards on the ground. But Ollie Gordon is also in that mix. And so I can't say for certain that if Achane doesn't play, that Wright's going to be the featured back. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Gordon started and it was a committee. But both backs, Gordon and Wright, need to be owned, especially if you have De'Von Achane, just in case, because he plays Monday night. It's the worst case scenario for fantasy managers. If he goes into that game questionable and you don't have one of these 2 guys to back him up, you're going to be really scratching your head and pulling your hair out potentially if he's ultimately inactive in that game against Pittsburgh.
And we should say that's a good matchup, at least on paper, against Pittsburgh, who's given up a ton of rushing yards over the last 2 months. It's expected to be really cold in Pittsburgh next Monday night with, I think, lows of 10 degrees. I don't see Tua throwing the ball a lot, right? So it's probably, Pittsburgh also knows that, so they're going to probably load up. But
you don't want that.
This run game has been really good for Miami, and if Jaylen Wright happens to get the start, I think he's somebody that you have to put in your lineup at least as a flex. At least.
And again, I would say this: either one, right? Right, for most of the year was Gordon, and then now it looked like Wright may have passed Gordon, but we don't know because if you went back to the game, Gordon actually was the first guy off the bench when they gave Achane a series off. So I legit don't know. We're gonna dig into it for sure this week. I legit don't know if it would be Gordon, if it would be Wright. Maybe McDaniel just goes with the hot hand, and that's going to make life tough again because it's a Monday night game, and you're basically, you have to get one of these. If you have any fab budget left and you have Achane, you got to spend it on Wright or Gordon, just to make sure.
All right, what about at receiver? Who are the top guys that you are looking to pick up this week?
Yeah, receivers are a little bit more, let's just say, fruitful. There's a few more options than there are certainly at the running back position. And some of these are just depth. But Jayden Reed came back last week. He didn't have a huge game. He had 31 yards on 4 targets, but still, he's a talented guy who's made a fantasy impact in the past. So like, you could pick him up and stash him. They've got Denver this week. I don't want to touch him with a 39.5-foot pull. Luther Burden's another good one because Rome Odunze is out. Burden actually led the Bears in receiving yards last week. He had 5 for 70, scored 11 points. And I don't know when Odunze is coming back because they're talking about him being again week to week. The Bears have the Browns. It's not the best matchup on paper, but still, again, somebody that you could pick up as depth or in case somebody else gets hurt because wide receivers, especially this year. I mean, we've seen a lot of wide receivers dinged up. I want to get to a few others. I don't know if Drake London's playing on Thursday night.
Doesn't sound like it.
I don't know if you want to play Darnell Mooney on Thursday night, but I mean, he's out there. Jerry Jeudy has coming off a good game. He's got the Bears this week. He's out there. I'll give you one that I really like. Jaden Higgins. Okay. Houston didn't have a great game last week. Why? Matchup wasn't good. This week, Arizona. So Higgins is a guy that if you really need like a starter this week, I think you can go in that direction. He's out there. Kimray DK is out there as well. And the matchup's pretty good against San Francisco. They gave it up to wide receivers, but do you trust DK? I'm not sure. And then I left this one for last because we hope that CeeDee Lamb is active this week. Because if he's not, that's going to stink. And Sunday night game, Ryan Flournoy. If you have CeeDee Lamb, you may want to pick him up just in case. Again, we hope CeeDee is going to be good. I've heard nothing about him yet. But Flournoy is somebody that you could pick up even as a wide receiver handcuff.
And I will say with the concussion protocol, we'll usually know by the end of the week how these guys are trending because the way that it works is you have to get a full practice in. And if CeeDee Lamb just doesn't have a full practice, he's not playing.
Yeah. And one other thing too, Mark, is T. Higgins went back into concussion protocol because he woke up experiencing concussion-like symptoms because this poor guy just keeps, hitting his head on the turf. And so, I mean, I don't know if he's going to play this week.
Well,
so,
I want to talk about those two guys real quick. Their backups. Andre Yosevach is probably the guy that's going to benefit the most from T. Higgins, not only being out this week against the Ravens, but I would be shocked if T. Higgins plays another game this year because what's the
really?
point?
Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean,
I get it.
You've had 2 concussions in 2 weeks. Why risk a third one in a meaningless season, right? You're already going to miss this week 15 game. My guess is they shut T. Higgins down, make sure that he's good for next year because he's too important of a piece to risk in a lost season.
I will give you another player at a different position that you could pick up off the waiver wire who might also benefit if T. Higgins doesn't play this week against Baltimore.
Ryan Flournoy. I want to go back to that one real quick. He's had some big games this year. He had over 100 yards last week against Detroit. He had a 100-yard game against Carolina earlier in the year. Is he somebody that you can really trust as a flex? I know this Minnesota defense can be aggressive.
Yeah,
go ahead.
They're good, Marcus. The Vikings defense is pretty, has been pretty good and really tough on wide receivers. So trust? No. That's a desperation dart throw where like if I have CD and I don't have a Jordan Addison or I don't have a Steeler or a Dolphin wide receiver, and I mean beyond DK and Jaylen Waddle, I mean, who can you really trust on either one of those teams at wide receiver? That's at least somewhat of a security blanket, right? I mean, a little bit. He was very good against Detroit, but that was Detroit. Their defense not good against wide receivers. But I still, it would just make me feel better just to know that if I don't have a DK on Monday night and you're playing Waddle regardless, and if I don't have like a Jordan Addison, who, I mean, I still don't love him because JJ McCarthy, but still, then at least I've got something to fall back on if CeeDee Lamb ultimately doesn't play. And again, between CeeDee and Achane, worst case scenario, injured, playing into the last 2 games of the week where you don't know if they're going to be ready to roll yet. And hopefully we'll find out by Friday or Saturday. But right now, you're picking up your players off the waiver wire tonight. You need to go ahead and make those moves now.
I want to ask you about one more. You mentioned DK Metcalf. He was dealing with some kind of stomach issue.
Yeah.
Adam Thielen, who the Steelers claimed in the middle of last week, actually was number 2 in snaps for Pittsburgh against Baltimore. Now, didn't have a big fantasy day or anything like that, but is Thielen someone that you would feel comfortable starting if Metcalf were out on Monday night?
No, I wouldn't. No, I'd rather go with the Higgins. Rashid Shaheed could be floating around out there. Jerry Jeudy, DK. I'd rather play those guys. I mean, Adam Thielen, it's been a long time since he's, had fantasy value where you can actually say, yes, Marcus, I trust starting him.
All right, let's talk about the top tight ends who are available on the waiver wire. We'll tell you who you should pick up next. This episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. There's no reason to let big wireless drain your wallet, especially during the holidays. And right now, Mint Mobile is running their best deal of the year. All of their unlimited plans are 50% off. That means you can lock in 3, 6, or even 12 months of unlimited premium wireless for just $15 a month. It's the easiest way to take your overpriced phone bill and give it the full Scrooge treatment. And this is what makes it even better is how simple Mint makes the switch. No contracts, no nonsense, just real savings and real quality. Switching to Mint lets you keep your same coverage for a very low price. Plus, the setup takes only a few minutes. You can bring your own phone and your number without any issues. The service is fast and super reliable, even on the go. It feels good knowing that you're not going to be overpaying just to stay connected. So turn your expensive wireless present into a huge wireless savings future by switching to Mint. Shop Mint Unlimited plans at mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. That is mintmobile.com/LockedOnNFL. Limited time offer, upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12 months plan. Required $15 a month equivalent. Taxes and fees, initial plan term only. 35 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Capable devices required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com for more details. Welcome back to the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast. Fabs, let's talk about the top tight ends who are available on the open market, because right now, outside of the top couple names, which is, Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, and a few others sprinkled in there, it's kind of all jumbled together. And like even someone like, Oronde Gadsden, who we've liked this season, he's really started to fall off. So if you need somebody to get you through the playoffs, who are you looking at?
I mean, Colson Loveland is long gone in Dynasty, but in redrafts, again, right, 50% availability. He had a touchdown last week. He has scored 12 plus points in 2 of his last 3 games. I'll mention it again. No Rome Odunze. So, if he continues to be sidelined and Odunze hasn't really done anything and DJ Moore has fallen off a cliff. I mean, statistically, Loveland is a guy that I think could end up helping people in the playoffs. There's no question about that. And for once, tight ends actually got a bunch of options that I like, not only just to pick up, but you can maybe even play them this week. And speaking of Isaiah Likely, over the last 2 games, 25 fantasy points. He's had 12 targets. He's been better than Mark Andrews.
Well, and you know the thing about Likely too? He's had a touchdown where he's fumbled the ball out of the back of the end zone, and he's had one taken away on a really suspect call where, I mean, it's pretty clear. That's 2 touchdowns. You had those 2 touchdowns over the last 2 weeks. What are we saying about Isaiah Likely?
You can make an argument, and I haven't done my rankings for Sports Illustrated yet, but they will be up later on today, that Likely should be ranked ahead of Mark Andrews. But both of them are startable because the Bengals are terrible. What do I always say this year? Death, taxes, and a tight end's going to light the Cincinnati Bengals up like a Christmas tree. And I mean, I think every Bills tight end last week had a good game. I mean, I think Jay Remersma came out of retirement and had a big game. I had to throw that one out there, buddy, to see if you even remember Jay Remersma.
I was trying to think of some other Bills tight ends.
Oh my gosh! Oh yeah. Listen, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But so likely should be and added and started this week. And then you could say the same thing for Mike Gesicki. Now, last week he went nuts. He had the best game against the Bills by a mile for a tight end. He had almost 21 fantasy points. But Joe Burrow's back. Last year, Gesicki was a serviceable tight end in fantasy. Like, don't forget about that. He was okay. And now if Higgins can't go, that's more targets spread out amongst, Jamar and Gesicki and Josevich. So, like, you've got Gesicki out there playing the Ravens. This is a game where all of a sudden Mike Gesicki has fantasy value as a potential starter. Any notes on those guys before I get into the rest, Marcus?
No, I think Gesicki is kind of a must start the rest of the way. I mean, Joe Burrow's healthy. Like I said, I don't think T. Higgins is going to play another snap this year.
Yeah.
I start him.
Okay. Darren Waller is still out there.
Mm-hmm.
He's got Pittsburgh this week. Pittsburgh has not been great against tight ends.
Nope.
Theo Johnson is out there. The Commanders just gave up 3 touchdowns to tight ends last week in Minnesota. Mason Taylor's coming off a really good game. And if it's, I don't know who the quarterback for the Jets is going to be, but it might be somebody who likes to dump the ball off because he doesn't want to look downfield because his name is Brady Cook. I don't know. And like, Zach Ertz, God bless him. I mean, like, he tore his ACL. He's probably done for the year and maybe his career is over. And I think he's a borderline Hall of Famer. John Bates is the guy that played the most snaps when Ertz went out. But I would wonder why the Commanders wouldn't try and see what they have in Ben Sennett if they have anything in him. That's more of a deep league option.
Yeah, well, and Sennett was a 2nd-round pick. He was very productive at Kansas State.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem like they have any interest in doing that. But again, You're 3-9 right now. Zach Ertz is out. Why not let him have the next month to
That's
kind
what
of
I'm
develop
saying.
and showcase? I think he's on our waiver wire watch list. I don't think he's somebody that you're picking up right now.
Right, exactly. Colby Parkins is another one too. Although, this week the matchup's not great against Detroit. Did you see what the total is in that game? It's 55.5.
I mean, that makes
in that
sense.
game. That'll be the most enjoyable watch of the entire weekend, no matter if you're talking about real or fantasy football.
Any other tight ends that are worth mentioning before we head out?
Now, I think that's it, but I am going to mention some kickers because Dicker the kicker kicked Mike Keister last night.
Go ahead. I mean, I'm just going to tune out, but go ahead.
Listen, Cam Little's got the Jets. Pick him up and start him. Kaimi Faber, and the guy, legitimately to me, is one of the 3 best kickers in fantasy football, and he's 50% available on Sleeper. Folks, wake up, please. Anybody. Andy Borregales. I don't love the matchup this week, but he's been really good for the last month. Harrison Mevis, the big kicker, I'm going to call him, for the Rams this week in what could be a high-scoring game. And who did I tell you to play last week? Riley Patterson, who had a really good game. He's got a good matchup this week. Again, you got to watch the weather, though, because it's going to be butt cold in Pittsburgh on Monday night.
If you're still playing leagues that have kickers, you probably like to eat boogers.
Stop it. No.
Kickers the worst, especially in dynasty leagues. There's no such thing.
Marcus. Is it pass ball? What is it? Is it run ball? It's not football, that's for sure, if there's no kickers. Come on.
You cannot have kickers in dynasty leagues.
Listen,
Let's just end that right
if you
there.
have Brendan Aubrey, you love kickers. If you have Dickers,
in real life, I don't need them in my fantasy league. They're way too random. That's it. We're closing the show out.
Come on.
That is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On Dynasty Football your first listen every single day. Make sure you check out the podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. And did Locked On Dynasty make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it to us on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. And be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. And for your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL podcast. 2 shows every single day. 1 in the morning with Tyler Rowland, 1 in the afternoon with Tony Wiggins, available wherever you get your podcast. Go follow Grumpy Fabs on Twitter at Michael _Fabiano. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. And we'll see you guys right back here tomorrow.